the whole thing. I used to.
That's right.
But now that my eyes are open, I see. The song says, I was once blind, but now I see. Are we understanding?
Yes.
When we were blind, we walked as blind people. But now that we are open, there is no reason why we should still be calling Yahuwah and his we're going to read it from the NIV King James, and then we're going to read it in the set of our scriptures. You have it? Chapter 5, verse 17 and 18. That's it. So it's important that we understand, once again, why we need to know the foundation, why we need to emphasize standing on the foundation, and not just standing on it, but living in it and living by it. Come on.
Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 18 from the NIV. Do not think that I have come to abolish the Torah or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. I tell you the truth, until Shemayim and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the Torah until everything is accomplished.
Okay. Now, we're going to read it from the set of our scriptures. Verse 17 says, think not that I have come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I have not come to destroy it, but to reveal its full intended meaning. Now, you have to understand the group of people that he was dealing with. As I said before in some of the early teachings, you have to understand the sages and the rabbis were some of his main contenders and some of the main ones that fought against him. Why? Because he was coming against their system. He was coming against the system of their laws, which we know as Judaism. They are the ones who basically would write and add to the Talmud. The Talmud is the oral writings. And so you have to understand the oral writings were then taken and put in writing, and they use it, and that's what the Talmud is the writings of the sages and rabbis. Get my mouth together. And so what ends up happening, men began to follow the instructions of the sages and rabbis, and they left the pure Torah, which was written and given unto Moshe to give unto his people so that they could follow this. So you have to understand, when they came in and they basically took over the land, their rules and regulations began to be the customs and the rules and the regulations for the people that lived in that land. So you have to imagine what it was like for Yahusha in that time, coming and speaking truth while they were going against the truth. And so it's important that we understand the reason why they came and did what they did. Why? Because they wanted to do what they were doing. It's just that plain and simple. It says in some writings that the theologians wrote, and especially some historians wrote, that the sages and rabbis felt like they could take the seat of Moshe, because you have to understand Moshe was a prophet as well. And so when Yahuwah told Moshe and told the congregation of Yisrael that there would be a prophet like as unto him, this is what the sages and rabbis wanted. So what they did, they came in and basically hijacked that position. And they then took it and basically said they had the authority, they had the right to change and to basically divert the rules or the instructions of Abba Yahuwah. They had the very right to change it. And so this is why it's important that we as a people understand some things that we read are based upon customs. Customs that were birthed out of the heart of men. Men that had not followed the Torah but knew the Torah. And so you have to understand, when he made this direct statement, he was talking to them, letting them know, I've not come to destroy the Torah. Neither have I come to destroy the prophets. You have to understand, they killed the prophets. This is why Stephen was stoned. Was stoned. Right. And if you read in the book of Acts, from chapter 6 all the way to chapter 8 and chapter 9, you will see he was stoned because he corrected them concerning the Torah. And when they couldn't take the heat, they lied on him and said that he was speaking against the truth. Because they could not find anything else, so they had to create a lie. So the importance of understanding what Yahusha is saying is that he's talking against those that have created another sideline system, just like on today. The church has created a sideline system. Now you have to understand, you got things like the Maimonides, you got things like the Talmud, you have things like those that people follow. And by following those things, they follow the voice of the sages and the rabbis. Are we understanding?
Yes.
There was even where they would kill the prophets. Why? Because if the prophets rose up against them and spoke against them, then they would kill them. Now mind you, Yahusha is in the order of Moshiach when it comes down to the prophetic.
That's right.
So when they saw this, they automatically became angry and bitter and wanted to destroy what he was doing. Why? Because he came to upseat and uproot their lies and their errors.
That's right.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now, let's look at what this means. Now, once again, he says, think not that I have come to destroy the Torah, speaking directly to those that were Torah violators and wanted to basically have the Torah dispelled and removed. Or the prophets, the ones that came and spoke and reiterated what it was that Yahuwah was conveying to his people. Remember, the prophets were raised up to get the people in line because they were not listening to judges. They were not listening to anybody. So Yahuwah raised up prophets that would prophesy and speak into their ears about changing and correcting their ways. All right? And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, verse 18. For verily I say to you, until Shemayim and the earth pass away, one yud or nakuda shall in no wise pass from the Torah until all of it has been correctly filled up. Now, do we hear what it says in the original?
Yes.
It didn't say anything about till it was completed. It didn't say anything about until basically, in other words, bringing it to a close. It didn't say anything of that nature or even allude to that. This is where so many people basically fall out. Now, I want to read another rendering for you. As I go back to this, we're going to look at this a little deeper. Now, this is another rendering of Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 and 18. Do not think that I've come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. For truly I say to you, till Shemayim and the earth pass away, one yod or one little or ornamental flourish shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Now once again, till all be done, till all be filled up. When you fill up a cup, does that mean that now this is the end of that cup being used or to the end of that? No. Whenever we look at the word, when you're dealing with people, you think about the word famo, which also means family. So when you're talking to different people, we use sometimes the term famo or family. It just depends on who you're speaking to. Are we understanding? Once again, and this is how Yahushua dealt with them. He dealt with them with their own language and their own style.
Right.
But does that mean that he conformed to their ways? Absolutely not.
That's right.
It's like when you're talking to people that are streetwise, you gotta know how to talk streetwise. There was a movie that we saw years ago, and there was an Ibram on there, and he was talking slang. And in order for him to talk, you know, he was saying certain things, and for the brother to understand what he was saying, he had to jump down and speak in the same manner. It was funny, but it was good because it showed you how they were able to communicate with that, using that kind of using slang. So once again, no, Yahushua was not using slang, but he was referring to them in their language and into the way that they would be able to understand. You know how when you talk to some people, you can't talk to people, I don't want to say this in a derogative way, but you can't talk to some people nice. That doesn't mean you cuss them out and you be vulgar, but that means sometimes you just got to talk to them from the position and where they are.
Right.
You know, you tell somebody, you know, the building is on fire. The building is on fire! Are we understanding?
Yes.
You trying to get them to get out of the building. You end up in that, hey, you who? You hear me? The building on fire. You better come on out of there. Hey, the building on fire. Get your stuff and get out of there. Better than that, get out of that building. Why? Because you want them to be able to identify with you so they can know that you can identify with them by the way you speak to them. Are we understanding?
Yes.
In other words, you know what they're talking and you know how to talk right back to them in that same manner. So that's what we look at. Are we understanding tonight?
Yes.
All right. Now it's important that we understand what's happening in this. It's important for us to understand this study, understanding that we possibly inappropriately impose a Western Greco understanding to the Hadashah because we do not understand the foundation or the traditional teachings at the time of Yahushua. Now, as we examine this, we're going to look at it is built on a rock. The rock is the foundation or the Tanakh, okay, the scriptures. Now, the foundation upon which the renewed, and it is not the new covenant, but it is the renewed covenant. Are we understanding?
Yes.
Now, let's look at Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31. This rests upon is the Ephraim scriptures. And then we're going to go into Yeshaya 28 and 16. It's important that we understand that it is built on a rock. And everything that we look at, you can always research it and trace it back to the Torah. This is why I don't understand why people, fight and say, that the Brit Hadashah or the renewed covenant is not relevant and that it was man-made, when we find out about the life of Yahushua, and we can always see the quote and see the very word of the Torah also in the Brit Hadashah. Are we understanding?
Yes.
All right, now let's look at Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, come on, we're going to read that.
Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 31. The time is coming, declares Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Yisrael and with the house of Yehuda. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, now we heard that. Everyone heard that, right?
Yes.
All right, come on, let's read. 778. Now come on, we want to look at this and see. Now we heard what the NIV says, right?
Yes.
Now let's hear from the set apart scriptures. 31.
Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, that I will make a great renewed covenant with the house of Yisrael and with the house of Yehuda.
All right, Torah. Now, let's look at what that means. The covenant that was established at Mount Nebo in Debiram 29:1, it was already established. So if something is already established, it does not become new, you renew it. Just like with insurance. If you have any kind of policies that have, I don't want to use expiration date because this didn't have an expiration date, but a time that it comes to a fulfillment or it comes to a climax, then what happens is, it doesn't mean that you get a new one. It means that the one you have is just renewed.
Right.
And so this was renewed. It was not a new policy. Now, so as we look, this is challenging our belief system. It's challenging us as believers, especially those that are trying to walk in truth, but you still vacillating between two. Because you say you are a believer, but yet you still say he can be Christ and he can still be God. You still argue that fact.
Right.
Then people still come up, and like I say, social media can be very damaging to our belief and to our healthy belief in the set apart scriptures, in Yahushua and Yahuwah.
Right.
That's right.
Why? Because there's so much stuff out there. And because if you don't walk and operate in the gift of discernment, you'll begin to look at all kind of stuff. Because once again, you have to understand, we're still renewing our mind. We're still renewing our way of life to this way of life.
Right.
So it's important that we understand. And you got to understand and get with people that know how to do that. All doctors do not know how to be surgeons.
Right.
All doctors are not meant for that. A dentist is not meant to do surgery on somebody's foot.
That's right.
Neither is an OBGYN meant to do anything but that. Now somebody may say, well, I know doctors that are skilled in every area, but they're only perfected in one. Are we understanding? That's not minimizing what people can do, but what that is saying is that there's still going to be an area that you are stronger in than any of the other areas. Just like when you have a radiologist is not going to be in there looking at your eyes because they're not an eye doctor.
Right. That's right.
And so we got all of these different people up here with different titles, sages, and you know, they're this. And then when it comes time to tell them something, they can't be told nothing. No, you ain't that, you are a bastard.
Right, that's right.
And I know people don't like that and they get angry, but it is the truth. Because if you cannot be taught, then you are not of the Abba. You are not a part of his family.
Right.
It's important that we understand that. And there's so much stuff going on. People talking about, you know, and especially my sisters, the Cody. Well, I'm a woman. I can't tell him what to do because I'm not over him. Well, then shut up and stop posting up names.
Right.
Because you do not know who's reading your stuff. You do not know who is learning from your stuff. And so you want to come and tell other people, other women, that's abiding by the instructions and know what Yahuwah has given us to do through Yahusha. You want to come and challenge what we're doing, but you're doing the same thing, but you're hiding behind a man.
Right.
I ain't hiding behind no man.
That's right.
Because I can't tell no man what to do, but you didn't just put up a whole man that said women ain't supposed to teach, women ain't supposed to do this, and women ain't supposed to do that. And then when a brother come on and say, but you're wrong for that because they have women teachers, then you want to tell them, well, I can't correct them, I need a brother to do that. How stupid that sounds. That's just like telling somebody, I can't drive across the street, you're going to have to get in the car and drive for me, and I'll walk over and then I'll get the car. If you put yourself in the driver's seat and you open up that door, then you better be ready to walk all the way through it.
Right, that's right.
Because you have to understand, when you start playing the gender game, you are no longer a messenger or a servant of Yahuwah through Yahusha.
That's right.
Because now you playing the gender game. Well, then you don't tell your son nothing. Let him back you across the head. Let him do whatever he wants. Let him run that house, and he ain't but 5 years old.
Right, that's right.
I'll beat him till I get tired, and I wouldn't get tired no time soon. Why? Because this is the games people play. Why? Because of the mentality.
That's right.
You have to understand the Roman Catholics brought in all that stuff.
That's right.
Making women nuns and superior mothers. They can't teach nothing. They can't tell nothing. When you look at Yehukin in chapter 5, and Yahusha was talking to the woman at the well, she went running, evangelizing, telling the town about him. Now, one time did he tell her, no, I'm going to wait for the apostles to come back because you can't go talk to no men. He was talking to her and she was talking back to him. Number one, if it was so wrong, he would have never spoke to her.
That's right.
He would have never ministered to her. He would have told her, shut up, woman, and listen. He didn't do that. Once again, you're falling up behind this Greek mentality and Greek theology and philosophy and missing the beauty of Yahuwah's Torah. We need to get it together. And it is so.
And it is.
And it is so. Once again, let's look at what he said in verse 31. In verse 31. Talking about renewed, not new. Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, that I will make a renewed covenant with the house of Yasharel and with the house of Yehuda.
And he said it with both houses. He said a renewed covenant.
Right.
Not a new, renewed.
Right.
Renewed. And it is so.
It is so.
Now let's look at Yashayahu, or Yashayah, 28 and 16. Let's look at that. It's important we understand. And it is 692. All right. It's important. Come on, read that for me.
Yoshayahu chapter 28, verse 16, from the NIV once again. So this is what the sovereign power says. See, I lay a stone in Zion, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone for a sure foundation. The one who trusts will never be dismayed. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, can we read that again in the set of our scriptures? 692.
Therefore, thus says Master Yahuwah, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth not shall make haste.
Okay. Therefore, thus says Master O sovereign Yahuwah, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone. I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone. Are we understanding?
Yes.
He lays a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believes shall not make haste. He that believes shall not make haste. Are we understanding?
Yes.
It's important that we understand that. Now let's see what this word haste looks like and what it is. The Hamashiach, who is Yahuwah. We should not make haste. In other words, we'll be set on that foundation.
That's right.
Because that is Yahuwah. Are we understanding?
Yes.
It's important that we understand the importance of relationship, and we understand that Yahuwah and Yahusha are one.
That's right.
Are we understanding?
Yes.
They are not divided. This ain't no reality show where he came to basically fight against his Abba and come to change up everything. And that's just the way it plays out to me when people say that Yahusha came to do away with the Torah. How ridiculous that sounds. I understand to a degree because I was ignorant and was reading and understanding from a Greek mentality. But at the same time, when you start looking and saying, okay, wow, this is wrong. Just like we're finding out about our history. We start looking and saying, wow, you mean tell me they took all that and they hid all that from us? If they hid and did all that to us as a people, what makes you think they wouldn't do that about the set-apart scriptures?
Right, they will.
They will and they did. And they continue to do it. That's why they continue to come out with another version. Because everybody think the next version come out gonna make them deeper. Yeah, it's gonna make you deeper, deeper away from truth and deeper in that hole that the enemy is digging to keep you in. That's why every time they come up with a new translation, it always has something else in it to take away and to modify and to water down the truth. Don't expect to get truth out of something that was created to keep you away from his truth.
That's right.
And it is so. He is that cornerstone. That's who Yahushua is. Are we understanding?
Yes.
All right. Now let's look at Aleph Orient, which is Corinthians chapter 3, verses 10 through 12. Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 10 through 12, which is also known as Corinthians, chapter 3, verses 10 through 12.
And it is so.
All right, come on, read them.
Corinthians, Aleph, chapter 3, verses 10 through 12, from the NIV. By the mercy Yahuwah has given me, I laid a foundation as an expert builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should be careful how he builds. For no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Yahushua HaMashiach. If any man builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw. Continue to 13. His work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, come on, let's read.
According to the favor of Yahuwah, which is given to me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another builds thereon. But let every man take heed how he builds thereon. For no other foundation can man lay than that is laid, which is Yahushua the Mashiach. Now if any man build upon this foundation, gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble.
Verse 13.
Every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is.
And it is so.
And it is so.
It is so. All right. Once again, as we look at the scripture, chapter 3, verses 10 through 12, according to the esteem of power. which is given to me as a wise master builder. Now we're talking about Paulus, Apostle Paulus, or Rabbi Shaul. I have laid the foundation, and another builds thereon. But let every man take heed how he builds. 13. And it says, for no other foundation can man lay than that is laid, which is Yahushua the Hamashiach. Once again, that is laid, saying that it was already, or he was already laid for purpose to be the foundation. Now, if any man builds upon this foundation, gold, silver, precious stone, wood, hay, stubble, let every man's work shall be made manifest. Every man, see, you have to understand, his life and what he did and what he came to do, we're not supposed to build those things upon him. I would look at it in this manner. In other words, when we say build, we're basically saying this is what we're going to get out of it. Because we're going to place the emphasis of having wealth, because he's the foundation in our lives. Instead of saying upon the foundation that we're standing on, it makes us stable. His life makes us stable. We are a stable people because we trust in him through to Yahuwah. In other words, he's the foundation that we stand and believe on, because he is our direct connection to Yahushua. Right. And so as we tell people this, and as we tell people about him, and as we continue to lead people to him, we are building upon his credentials, his credibility. Right. Why? Because he's the only foundation that we have.